Good morning, everybody. I'm going to try this again. As usual, Facebook just ceases to work. I don't know why. I don't know whether it's a signal issue or what the issue is here. But I've never had any trouble at all with Twitter. So Facebook, it's disastrous. So I was talking about this week's blog. And my name is Deborah Byrne, and I'm from Deborah Byrne Psychology Services, and known across social media as DB Psychology. So I'm going to just start again. This week's blog is all about shame and guilt. And I was talking about how no emotion is either negative or positive. It is how we in society, how your culture, and basically how you're raised, and how other people showed you how these emotions are or should be. And they basically stem from how you think, the situation you're involved in, and how you think and how you process thoughts and how you react to the situation you're in. And then they elicit the emotions, whether they're love or sadness. And in this case, we're going to talk about shame and guilt. Shame and guilt are, I suppose, the ones that people think of in a very negative way, because, a lot of times they can be used to manipulate and abuse us, particularly in childhood, and they're not used in a healthy, constructive way, and therefore, when we think about guilt and shame, we want to avoid them, and they trigger back to previous situations where you really didn't feel good about yourself, and maybe somebody manipulated you, maybe somebody abused you, and therefore it's triggering now in the present moment those emotions, even on a subconscious level. And more likely or not, it is a subconscious level. If you're having difficulty with shame and guilt, it will be from the past, and it will be a subconscious triggering. And what I say about that is you're not actually aware that it's to do with the past and not the present situation. That is what's happening. Now, they talk about shame as the one ring that binds them all. That's where I was kind of think of Lord of the Rings when I hear about this. Shame tends to bind all other negative emotions to it. They bind them up, it holds them tight, and it really can do a bad number on your head, on your mental health. So I always think of that Lord of the Rings. I don't know why. I always think of it when I hear about shame, and how it binds all other negative emotions to it, and how it can use them to manipulate you and continue to abuse you as an adult from something that has happened in the past, whether it was a past in your adulthood or whether it was past in your childhood. It is the one emotion that can really trigger us, and trigger. It's like a domino effect. It triggers all the other emotions that we have, all those other negative emotions that we have, including fear, our anxiety, even depression. It'll bind it all up and use and abuse and manipulate us again, and continue, as they say, in the present moment from something from the past. In order to look at these emotions, you've got to understand that what they do is they can do two things. First off, the shame and guilt will either get you to withdraw, to isolate yourself, and to disassociate, or it'll get you to lash out and get angry and manipulate others. So if you have had a very bad experience with shame and guilt in the past, as I said, you're automatic. It becomes an automatic response. It's not a conscious way of dealing with it. You will either withdraw, disassociate, isolate yourself, which is bad, or you will lash out. You will get angry, and it'll be over the top anger at the particular situation. It doesn't mean you're not entitled to get angry at the situation. What it means is you're over the top because you're reacting to something that has happened in the past and you're not really consciously aware of it. You're withdrawing, you're isolating, you're disassociating, again, because it was something that happened in the past, and this is how you dealt with it, with those emotions at the time, and how you dealt with the shame and the guilt at the time. So what we need to do is actually learn to recognize our own reactions to these emotions, our own thinking, how we are, is it positive, is it negative? More likely than not, it's going to be a negative way of thinking. It's going to be, particularly if you're overreacting, or as I said, you're disassociating, or you're lashing out in an over the top manner to people, then it's usually, somebody has abused you, somebody has manipulated you in the past. So therefore your automatic response when you feel these emotions is going to be in a negative way. So therefore we have to recognize that. We have to have a tool that allows us to monitor how we're feeling, or to get us into the way of looking at how we're actually thinking. And I've talked about in the past about negative thinking, boosting yourself, your a positive way of thinking, and filling that gap when you remove the negative. So always remember, when you're trying to get rid of something negative, you've got to start filling it back in with something positive. So I suggest using a journal in the blog. It can be online. Make sure it's password protected if it is. If it's a physical piece of paper, then you need to make sure it's secure as well, just for your own sake, so that you can feel free to put everything into it. So just make sure you're safe. The next thing I would say to you is only pick one situation or one emotion that you're going to track. So you're going to track it just like you would track your physical health. So if you were doing 30 minutes of exercise a day and you wanted to mark it down, you would normally track it. You'd keep a tracker for, say, 2 weeks to see how you're doing, to make sure how you're progressing. And in this sense, you're going to track your mental health. So you're going to write down about the situation, a particular, if it's one person, you want to see how you're reacting or interacting with that person, and you want to see what emotions are coming up around that person, or you've realized it's shame and guilt is always happening around this person. They always trigger, one or the other, both emotions in you, or fear or anxiety. You're trying to track this emotion. So just write about it. For 2 weeks, just write about it. Don't review it. Don't try and analyze it. Just write about it. And why I say 2 weeks, you want to get enough information. It's like you're gathering everything you can about as many interactions with this person or the situation as you can, and get it all into one place and all down on paper, or as I said, online where you can see it. And then you start to review it. After that 2 week period, you start to review it. So you review the journal, and you're going to ask yourself a number of questions. Now, I've written them down because I can't possibly remember them all off by heart. What you're looking for is to look for patterns in the way you're thinking and triggers. So there may be a few different situations that are triggering the same emotions. So what you're looking for is notice the who, the what, and the where. And is the reaction you're having appropriate to the actual situation or the person? Is it to do with the past? You just at this moment in time, all you're doing is noticing the patterns and the triggers. Okay? You're not judging. It's not about judgment. This is to start understanding how you're thinking. Your thinking will become your emotions. Okay? Your thoughts become your emotions and how you react to them. As I said, is it about the past or is it really about the present? It's up to you. You're not judging it. You're just looking at it. Okay? You do this in a non-judgmental way. It helps you to become more self-accepting if you do it in a non-judgmental way. is it tied to your self-esteem? Is it tied to any particular negative thought? Is it tied to, as I said, a past situation, a particular person in your past? Maybe it was a parent, maybe it was a grandparent, an aunt or an uncle who were very strict, who were horrible, abusive, manipulative. So think about it, the who, the what, and the where of the current situation, and then the who or the what or the where of the past situation. Then you start to think, okay, is it something I need help with? So at this point, you're saying, okay, I've gathered all my information together, I've looked at it, and maybe it's time I need to go and get some help. So be willing to do that. If it's a case that you don't feel, okay, I don't need any help, I can manage this on my own, I'm comfortable, it's not causing, and I say this in the blog, it's not causing undue anxiety. And if this exercise causes you undue anxiety, I actually highlight that in the blog. Stop it, don't do it, and just go and ask for help. Okay, don't do the exercise, go and ask for help. So the situation or the person, can you avoid them? Can you change the situation at all? Do you need to make a complaint? Is somebody being abusive to you now? Are you able to do that? Can you disengage from the situation? Can you disengage from the person at all? Not just avoid them, but actually leave them. It can be very difficult in a job situation. It can be very difficult in a work or a family member. It can be more, a much more harder to disengage or to avoid that family member. And I do go into more detail about how you can do that in my blog on deleting negative people. So have a look at that. And if it's a work situation, check out the details I give on narcissism. There's narcissists and how to deal with narcissists. There's some very good tips there on how to deal with those in a work situation. So do check that out. And then the other thing I would say to you is, during all this, now whether you feel you need help or not, or whether you feel you can deal with the situation yourself or deal with the person yourself, always, as I said, when you're trying to delete something negative, be a negative thought or a negative person or something else, you need to fill it with positives. So you want to do, and I put this at the end, there's a whole exercise. If nothing else, you flip down to the end of the blog and you read building self-esteem. Okay. You're going to need your journal. And the quickest way to do this is there are 12 questions at the end of the blog. Okay. You pick 3 maximum, and it's all about building your self-esteem. You pick those, you do your gratitude. I talked about journaling gratitude in the last few weeks. You pick 3 of those questions to do on a daily basis and start to do them from today onwards. You can pick them in any order you want. You don't have to pick the first 3 and then the next 3 and then the next 3. Pick them in any order you want. If you notice that there's a question you're avoiding, you may want to say, well, why am I avoiding this question? But the whole idea is, don't put yourself under any pressure. Use them to help build your self-esteem. They are very good questions. They're kind of open-ended questions. So today I had a good day. Why? Think about the answers to those. They're a form of building gratitude, as well as building your self-esteem. So have a look at them. And I don't want to stay on too long because I'll waffle. And I'm going to leave it at that. Have a look at the emotion. Have a look at the emotion. Have a look at the shame and the guilt. Even from the point of view, okay, even if you haven't, if they're not a particularly strong emotion for you and you've nothing that's happened in your past, just have a look at the exercise on how you can track your emotions. And how you can start to begin to track the emotions. So it could be fear, could be a big emotion for you. So have a look at that and use it for fear. You can use the same exercise for fear as you can for the shame and the guilt. And happiness. I think I'm going to be doing a blog on happiness, because some people find it an extremely difficult emotion. Sometimes if they've just come out of a very bad situation, or if they've PTSD or things like that, or postnatal depression, happiness can cause problems for people. So I'm going to do a blog on that now in the next couple of weeks before Christmas. So I'm going to leave it at that. Have a look at that. Have a look at the building self-esteem. So it's a good questions for your journal to start using. And I'll say good morning. And if any of you can join me on Broken Wings later this morning, I'll be talking about chronic illness and your mental health. So if anybody's interested in that, if you join the group Broken Wings, it's on Facebook. And thank you for watching. Thank you to my regulars for watching. And I will see you all again next week.